Kyiv says Russia is switching tactics in its strikes on Ukrainian infrastructure.
Moscow unleashed a massive barrage of missiles and drones across Ukraine on Thursday, leaving at least 6 people dead and more than 20 wounded.
But Kyiv says Russia did something new. It fired different types of missiles and drones at the same time, including some missiles that Ukraine can't shoot down, such as Russia's hypersonic Kinzhal weapon.
Ukraine is now saying that Russia's use of hypersonic missiles are evading Ukraine's defense systems. An advisor to Zelensky put it this way about the defense systems. They say they are not coping well enough. What do you make of that? How big of a problem is that?
Oh, Kate, I think it's a huge problem because the systems that we've designed are not good at all against hypersonics. And part of the big problem that we have is not only does that impact the Ukrainians who are directly involved in this war, of course, but it also impacts us. We really have to get ahead of ourselves here with developments that would allow us to better track and better take care of hypersonic weapons. And that's a very difficult thing given the fact that they travel at a minimum 5 times the speed of sound. So this is a critical component for us, for the Ukrainians.
Let's bring in now Mark Esper, the former defense secretary under President Donald Trump. Thank you for joining us, sir. The Ukrainian energy minister says that Russia used they're using a new tactic in this very large-scale offensive against Ukrainians. What did this tell you about the strategy right now? When they're doing all of these cities, they seem to be bombarding them. The strategy seems to be ramping up.
Well, the sense is what was that the attack in the last 24, 48 hours was retribution for an attack allegedly committed by the Ukrainians within Russia. And so the Kremlin's response was to hit them hard with 95-plus missiles, to use a range of ballistic missiles, hypersonics, cruise, drones. And what you find out when you dig a little bit deeper is that they're actually using air defense missiles and anti-ship missiles to attack Ukraine's infrastructure. And it tells you that their stocks seem to be fairly depleted. Now, kudos to the Ukrainians. It looks like their energy infrastructure is back online today. And it just shows you the resilience of the Ukrainian people when it comes to these unwarranted attacks on their infrastructure.
But when it comes to these hypersonic missiles that they're using, they used, I think it's 6 so far in this latest attack. They have barely used anything like that in the entire last year. So what does it say to you that they're ramping up hypersonic missiles? But also the concern, as we were talking to John Carrillo yesterday, Ukraine has nothing that can knock those out of the sky.
Right. Look, they're very hard to defeat. They travel at 5 times the speed of sound, up to 10 times the speed of sound. Very difficult to knock out of the air. It's a challenge that we in the United States military were looking at as well, because we know that China is also developing hypersonic weapons. So it's going to remain a challenge. The fact that they haven't used more of them is surprising. But this, again, calls for the need to Ukraine to get the air defenses it needs. I don't think they still have Patriot air defense systems. Not that Patriot could defeat hypersonics, but still, there's much more we need to give and provide the Ukrainians in order to beat back the Russian assaults.
Yeah.
Would that be problematic, though, for America, for NATO, by giving them that? Won't they, I guess, well, Putin will see it as any act of aggression. Anything that NATO does is an act of aggression anyway.
Well, we've already committed to providing Patriot. We actually have Ukrainian soldiers reportedly in Oklahoma training on the system. But it takes time to train. It takes time to deliver the systems. Another European allies providing systems as well. But again, these were things that the Ukrainians were asking for months and months ago. And it's a shame that they don't have them yet. Same goes for tanks and F-16s.
But on the F-16s, I'm fascinated by this because we are seeing a real split between the U.S. and Ukraine on this. Because President Biden is saying they've done the assessment. They don't think Ukraine needs them. Zelensky's telling Wolf they could be make or break to the outcome of the war, that they at least want to have the Ukrainian pilots training on them. Is it a mistake for the U.S. not to do it, in your view?
Well, sure it is. President Biden said a few weeks ago, no, 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 no. We now understand that Ukrainian pilots are being evaluated here in the United States to do so. There are also reports coming out of the Munich Security Conference that the United States top general in Europe, Chris Cavoli, Supreme Allied Commander, told lawmakers that, yes, F-16s would make a difference for the Ukrainians. And it's obvious. They need a platform to conduct strikes against Russian elements in Ukraine. It would very much help with our Ukrainian counteroffensive that hopefully will be launched sometime in the coming months. But sure, they need advanced fighter aircraft.